Our next session is going to be looking at opportunities for diaspora investments in Zambia's banking and finance sector. And you'll agree that with the sessions that we've had so far, this is a very nice cream in the middle of the great cookie that can come this way. But I know that our moderator for this session will do much better than me in terms of guiding how this discussion will go. So I'd like to invite the Director of DEI at American Axle and Manufacturing, the lovely Ms. Mbiya. Nice and bright. And of course, we heard wonderful appreciation for one of our main sponsors, Absa Bank of Zambia. And if you were in yesterday's meeting, you know that there is so much coming out from Absa's support, and I have the pleasure of inviting the Finance Director, Regional Head, Strategic Tax Solution, Ms. Hampinda. I'd like to invite the Head, Branch Sales and Distribution Retail, Mrs. Naomi Mwenya, to please join us. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that is our panel for the next session. Sonika, over to you in terms of timekeeping.
Okay.
Go for it, Ms.
Well, thank you so much. And Rose, you're an amazing hostess, so thank you so much. But again, I'm going to also say the protocols have been taken care of, and we're honored to have His Excellency, the Ambassador. So thank you so much for being here, and so insightful. I actually sat down yesterday and heard from him, and I was just like, wow, what a great representation of Zambia. And Frida, I could never thank you enough for actually bringing us all together. But this session is truly going to be about empowerment, right? For so long, I've been away from Zambia for such a long time, but I go home all the time. And I'm honored to say I'm one of those dual citizenship people that have followed the right process. And when I was in Zambia in December, I was just a proud Zambian, making sure that I got as much information as I could, because I know that there's so much excitement about Africa. We cannot afford to be spectators of our economy. So with that said, we've got some powerful women with us today. And I have a quote, right? I'm going to start out with a quote. And because I'm in diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though my profession is actually as a finance major, I decided to do DEI because I knew that there was a gap. There's so many times when we don't have the opportunity to be in the right spaces or get the right information, access, and sometimes people take over our conversations. But today, you have no excuses. So it's all about our mindsets and where we're going to take this from awareness to action. And as we listen to Absa, we need to make sure that we're taking notes and we follow up on this and lead to action. Collectively, we can do so much more, and we're really, really happy to have Naomi here and Venus, who are going to give us some amazing information. But with the quote, it states that diversity is a fact. So we're all different, coming from different regions. Representation here includes a lot of different people. But guess what? We need to make sure that we're including our own Zambians to the conversations. So even though we might not have the resources now, let's make sure we're empowering each other to do the things that will get us there. Equity is a choice. We have to do it deliberately. Inclusion is all about the action. But altogether, belonging is the outcome. So let's make sure we do something with the information we get today. So as we meet with Venus today and Naomi, let's get to know them a little bit more so that we understand who they are and how they can take care of us. So very briefly, first of all, who's Absa, who's Venus, and who's Naomi? So could you briefly tell us that before we start?
It's on. This afternoon, I'm still trying to get the time zones correct in my head. So I'm still thinking I'm back home and it's afternoon. So good morning. It's still morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Naomi. I'm Naomi Mwenya. I'm a seasoned banking professional. I've been in banking for the past 16 years. My expertise ranges from product development, business development, and digital transformation. What I'm very passionate about in my work is really finding new markets and new opportunities to impact people, as well as obviously get my bread and butter, get paid, yeah. Education-wise, I am one that I consider myself as homegrown. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Zambia, an MBA from the University of Zambia, so I am very proud to say that I'm a homegrown Zambian girl. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Once again, good morning, and I will ride on the protocols that were highlighted earlier. But it's been a great morning so far, and thoroughly enjoying it. And indeed, Orlando did start off with saying, power is in the numbers, and you need to monetize any opportunity that you have. The ambassador focused on remittances, and he also just highlighted the UGA meetings that are coming up, and literally the need of us engaging better so that we can actually get to do greater things as a team. Dr. Mwamba actually highlighted the power of education as an equalizer, and I must say I am a firm believer in that. Dr. Steady Mono was just reminding us around the importance of grit and tenacity, and that we need to love what we do. And I must say I am really, really passionate about what I do. Being a banker, and I am a banker with a finance background. So I am a fellow of the ACCA, as well as of the fellow of the Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants. I am really passionate about accounting, trying to improve the profession, and I therefore sit on the panel board for the ACCA in Zambia. I also try and give back to my country by sitting on a few statutory boards, including the Zambia Revenue Authority, the Ministry of Health, amongst others. So trying to give back to my nation in that regard. And being in the banking sector, but before that, started off my career in audit with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I have worked in both Zambia and the United Kingdom. Studied in Zambia, and of course I've done a few other things here and there, so I do continue my education journey. And in terms of Absa, so Absa has been operating in Zambia for over 100 years. And of course, it was previously Barclays, but then had the name change Absa. So we've been in Zambia for over 100 years. We have presence in 15 markets with a rep officer in New York. So we do have a rep office in New York here in the United States of America, but predominantly in Africa. Coming to Zambia specifically, we're one of the top 3 banks in the market with 15% market share. From a revenue, asset side, that's from both customer deposits and loans. So indeed, a market leader. And when it comes to return on equity or what the investors are getting back, we're clearly a number 1 and miles ahead in that regard. We have presence in all the 10 provinces in the country, with 34 branches. So it just goes to speak to the fact that we're looking at covering the entire geography, irrespective of which area. And we've also gotten into strategic partnerships where people can actually access our banking services in the palm of their hands, in their phone. So trying to look at financial inclusion, because of course that's a key issue in Zambia. We do have comprehensive solutions that will look at liquidity management, cash management, trade and working capital management, risk management, and of course investment banking, and we'll talk a lot more about that as we go on with the presentation. Our purpose as a bank is empowering Africa's tomorrow together, one story at a time. We believe each and every one of you in this room is one story at a time. And when we add value to you, we're then telling that story. I think back home, would remember with grandmothers telling us bedtime stories over a fireside, you know? So that's our gem. It's one story at a time. And this sinks in with the presidential address that just happened earlier on today, where the theme was building on the socio-economic gains for improved livelihood and a better Zambia. So hoping to do a lot more for Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So listen, you're really in for a treat, and take notes as you go along. But I remember when we first moved here, we had to wait for somebody to travel before we could send money back home to our families. So tell us what the role of technology is playing right now in banking and how we can maximize what is being done, and how is it shaping the future of banking? How can we partner more effectively, and how can we make sure that we understand those services that are available because of technology?
Okay, so you've rightly put it. A few years back, and not so far back, about 20 years ago, it was very difficult to get money across from one point to the other, or to even, for people like yourselves in the diaspora, to even sign up and get an account opened, transacting, and you're fully aware of what's happening on your account. It was difficult. But with the coming of technology, we've seen a tremendous change in the way traditional banking is done. Technology has really been profound, and it's played a pivotal role in changing the way we do banking. And not just banking, obviously it's including our lifestyle, and obviously banking becomes then our lifestyle. We've seen an emerging trend in different types of technology that can support transacting, that can support savings, that can support lending. When you just look at the global scale, you see a lot of digital wallets like Apple Pay, Samsung Pay. When you look at remittances, for example, you will note a lot of remittances companies that have obviously integrated and are now banking or have relationships with banks. So we've seen a change in the way technology has helped banking. There's now what everybody's calling digital banking. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, whatever time it is, you are able to open an account. You are able to transact, send money for emergencies. You're able to save. You're able to look at the latest interest rates that are happening back home. So, and for the diaspora, you're not left out. You're not left out in that now it's easy for you to even participate in some of the technologies that are happening back home. So for example, when I pick Zambia itself, we have the MNOs, the guys that we call MNOs, and they're called mobile network operators. Yeah, mobile network operators. The trends that we're seeing are huge. The penetration that mobile network operators have, or the levels that they've gotten to back home in transferring, in things like remittances, is sitting at about, we're sitting at about a growth of about 20% in the last 2 years. And as banks, we have also decided to participate and collaborate with them, in that even you back home with an account that is, obviously back home based, you can be able to send money to a mobile network operator back home. So when we look at technology, it's really changed our old way of thinking, brick and mortar, manual forms. Now you literally, like I've said, you can sit wherever you are and enjoy banking and get in touch with what's happening home from a financial inclusion point of view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, because I'm always doing that with my parents back home. So I hope that all of you understand that you can easily send money back home now. So that's why I'm really interested in hearing more on the remittances that the ambassador was talking about. So with regards to investments, in particular, investment opportunities that exist in Zambia that could be appealing for the people in the diaspora, could we take a look at this as a life cycle, kind of from a life cycle view, from us having kids, how do we, put money for our kids? If you're established or establishing yourself, what do you need? Maybe you need a mortgage, or maybe you need, just something that will give you high interest rates while you're in the diaspora, right? Right now, we've got interest rates that exist in the US. But when I compare interest rates that you're able to get in Zambia, it's way much more. But do we really understand that? And do we feel safe even investing in our Zambian bank, institutions that exist in Zambia? So could you please break that down from the life cycle very quickly, because we don't have a lot of time, but we want to empower the people that are here. And then also, as a business owner, how do people really establish meaningful partnerships with the banks? Like, what opportunities exist across the board, if you had to give us a quick overview?
Okay, so I'll tackle the life cycle, the individual life cycle. Investment opportunities are huge back home. From different stages of your life, like you've put it, from the time you're a kid to the time you grow up to obviously, into your retirement. And there's so many vehicles that we can use. So I'll just touch on a few of them, the investment opportunities that we have. There's opportunity first to invest in the value chain of different sectors, and Venus will come in and talk about the opportunities that we're seeing in the different sectors. So whether it's infrastructure, manufacturing, tourism, you can participate in that. If it's infrastructure, you can then say, look, I want to take part in real estate. But how does the bank help you take advantage of that? You've rightly put it, interest rates at home are high, but it's about that mindset shift. You have opportunity here to get cheaper funding to then come back home and say, I would like to support with either putting up a housing structure somewhere maybe in the economic zones that are coming up, or in different areas that are set out for development. Or you can use that money to then say, I want to participate in the economy. You've heard that there's a lot of positivity that's coming out of this, the new government, the ambassador has said. You get cheaper funding from here, invest in things like fixed deposits that will give you a high return. We're paying, I think, at about 20, as high as 20%.
Did you hear that? 20%?
Yeah.
What account here is giving you 20% in your account? Because even if you invest in the S&P 500, you're really looking at an average of 8%. I used to trade, so I know that there's a big difference in the opportunities that exist, and I just want you to take a close look at that. And it doesn't mean you're going to get that. Depending on when you decide to do it, it will make a big difference. But we really need to be realistic and take a look at the investments that exist. And obviously, there's some challenges, there's some risks, but at least you know that it does exist. People will talk to you about it and share what does exist. But some of these things are fixed. Yeah. So we really need to understand that. Thank you.
Yeah. Happy to elaborate further in the side conversations after this. But the other opportunity that's there also is even in government securities. The government wants to borrow from individuals, so you can place your money and you can be back home enjoying, but just develop that culture of every month I'm going to be sending $100 or whatever amount you want to set, and it can be building in a different type of account, and we'll pay you interest. The beauty about it is that you can view it from your internet banking or your mobile banking. We've got opportunity for you to use technology to view that. But investment also is not just about putting money and growing it. We have families back home, and half the time funerals happen. That's life. It does happen. How do I then support, or how do you support that funeral back home? There's policies, for example, we offer at Absa that can allow you to create to create some kind of a funeral fund for whoever you want to put. You can put your grandmother, you can put your mother-in-law, whoever you want to put there. When a funeral happens, the bank will be able to pay, and it will be your contribution. As Zambians, when we're mourning, we buy cabbages and carpenter and mealie meal. You can just call and say, go to the bank and get money for the carpenter and the mealie meal. But it's also a form of investment, and the opportunities are massive, like I have said. For the life cycle for kids as well, I think it's important to focus on that mindset shift It is home. I think the ambassador did talk about it. One day, a lot of our kids will go back home. So it's important that we start to think of what can we invest for them. We have products, we have industries that can support children investment. So for example, just before Venus comes in, as a bank, we are supporting what we call innovation hubs. And we've got about 500 kids that are doing different things, from agriculture to technology, tourism. They're building all these different types of models and business ideas. So we're teaching them to be investor ready. That's an opportunity for you to then come in and say, I want to invest in that, because that's a business that will grow in the next couple of years. Finas, over to you.
Okay, yeah, so I'll just quickly chip in. When you look at the individual life cycle, it's literally starting with, is it a 6-month-old baby that you have, a 3-year-old child? Are you thinking about their university? That's usually a nightmare when you start thinking of university fees. So we do have accounts that you can actually open for them right now. And once that is done, so it's called a junior mega saver account, and you will be the signatory and then transfer the right of ownership to that child at the age of 18. So I have a son sometimes, and you're trying to teach financial discipline when we're in a store. I'll say, I think today you want to buy that. I'm actually drawing the money from your account, and just says, no. You're not touching my account. The money for day-to-day spending is from your account. This one is a long-term investment. The Umoyo policy that we have, which is an insurance policy, it's literally up to you to decide how much you want to put in, depending on the payouts. And these are amounts that are as low as 500 kwacha contribution per month. When I bring that down to dollars, you could even say you would do maybe $10 per month. But it depends on whether you want to cover the coffin, the casket, and everything that you don't have to stress. And for the youths as well, we have the innovation hubs she's spoken about. But in the innovation hubs, we're trying to build up an entrepreneurial mindset in our youths. We know, yes, there's education, but then there's so many ideas out there. We had a fantastic idea of a solar-driven cooker that's been made by a young gentleman, a youth, but he didn't have the capital. As Absa, we said we were going to invest in that, and he's now gone large scale, is producing, and his product is now on the market. So those are the stories that we want to bring out for different individuals. We also have another one that we do, which is literally financial literacy and preparing youths for the workplace. So yes, that's not really a banking product, but what we're doing is we're trying to encourage them to be future ready, because we've noticed that when you're doing interviews or when you're just trying to interview the Gen X and the likes, they're telling you, as soon as I come in, I want to be a VP, a vice president. And you're like, it doesn't work like that. It's not a micro industry. So those are some phases that I just thought I would highlight over and above before we now get to the investment securities. And it's up to you based on your risk appetite and what you're trying to save for. So if it's a long-term saving product, you could actually say, I'm going to invest in a 15-year government securities, that's government bonds, which are going to give you 25% interest rate. And if you're getting cash here at 2%, bring it down to Zambia, lock it in a government bond. That gives you a coupon every 6 months. And then at the end of the 15 years, you get the total payout. Then you have the total money for university as well, just as an example.
And it's so easy to hear the word coupon and not understand it, right? So we want to break this down. A coupon means that interest that was supposed to be, that you're getting,
yes,
you can actually receive it.
Upfront. So it's more like, so you would actually get the interest every 6 months. So part of it is delayed at the point of maturity at the end of 15 years. Then there's another element that you'll be getting every 6 months. Yes. And for the cycles, so that's what I'm saying, it's risk appetite and what you want to use the money for, because that's from 365 days all the way to 15 years. We have the fixed deposits that she's spoken about. On the corporate side, for those that are in businesses, we do have a lot of things that we're actually doing. So we look at want to fuel your business growth as a first element. Secondly, it's providing you with seamless banking, being able to open an account from here. So you can actually open an account online. If you look at your tables, there's a QR code at the middle of the table there. It says Absa Retail Banking. If you were just to capture that QR code, it will it's the white stand here in the middle, yes. Yeah, it will actually take you to our website, and you'll be able to see the various account types that we have. You're even able to open an account online. Yes, yeah. And then the other thing is also women and youth. So we're trying to work, we've been working with the ZDA as an example, Zambia Development Agency. I know someone spoke about what are we doing to try and make sure that we identify I think it was Mr. Chanka, I think the businesses that are there. So as Absa, would actually be happy to have a discussion with you because we are working with the ZDA. We've been doing trade missions that are funded by Absa, where we take Zambian businesses to Congo, to Egypt, Angola, just to look at the opportunities that are there. We're also offering financial planning, preparation of business plans for those that maybe feel they don't have those skill set. So as a bank, we're saying it's not just about giving you the funds, but we want to see exponential growth in your business because that's then channeling economic growth as well. I thought I'll also just highlight some of those pointers.
So lots of resources. All I'm saying is that was just an appetizer. There's just so much more that is available, but we have to take the first step and be aware of what's available when it comes to financial institutions, partnerships that we can have, and Absa is here to kind of share that information. And so from a business standpoint, you can do something. From an individual standpoint, for your legacy, you can do something. There's always something you can do, but it's all about the mindset and whether you're going to procrastinate or whether you're going to take action and do something. So that's been put to rest, right? We've got lots of resources. Now you cannot say you didn't know because now you know and you can do something. So the next question is, we know that there are potential risks, right? So because we can't talk about all the positives and not talk about some of the challenges. So what are the potential risks associated with investing in emerging markets within the banking and financial sector, and how can investors, right, mitigate their risk?
Several risks. Every business has a risk, and every investment you make will have a risk. Some of them that are impacting potential investors in Zambia will be, first of all, the macroeconomic environment, because there have been fluctuations, specifically from the foreign exchange. So there's the foreign exchange risk, because you now, perhaps you'll be getting the money here in dollar, converting it to kwacha and wanting to do business in kwacha. So now it's about how do you then hedge that risk as the first one. Interest rates, interest rate risk, especially if you're looking at borrowing. If you want to borrow, the rate is likely to move depending on the macroeconomic fundamentals. So that's something you need to factor in your cash flows as well. And then regulatory and compliance. The regulatory environment, making sure you have gone through all the loopholes, you understand the taxation regime. And I'm passionate about tax, and I am lucky I've been exposed to different tax regimes because I cover the tax risk for the whole of Absa Group. So I now get an understanding of what's happening across all the markets. And what we've noted is Kenya does something, you even know, it's coming down. Uganda changes a tax, a certain tax element, it's coming down. And by then, I think I'm in that space where I'm also able to kind of drive the tax policy from the ZRA perspective. So the environment currently, despite tax being a huge risk, I must say the government is really making significant strides to make the environment business friendly. So there are various tax incentives. If you actually come into a multi-facility economic zone area, you'll be paying 0% tax on your dividends for the first 10 years of doing business. If you go into certain sectors, the inputs will actually be tax-free. So I don't know I don't know how many of us had an opportunity to listen to the President, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, doing his speech in Parliament this morning. There were so many tax incentives that were coming out. And I would just like to urge those of us that haven't to just take time to listen to it or at least read it. I think the speech is now available on social media. Yeah, so that's one and then from a regulatory point of view, the ZDA, Zambia Development Agency, is so helpful with trying to help you register your businesses quickly, provide linkages for you. Even the PACRA has tried to make it much, much easier, because that's something that would frustrate people. You can now actually go online and be able to get all this information. The other thing that I thought I would highlight is it's now a more positive sentiment despite all these macroeconomic factors I've highlighted. A key story is the KCM. The KCM matter has now been put to bed. I think that is one that was blocking out a lot of investment, especially in the mining sector. Over and above mining, one cornerstone for our country is agriculture, ICT, solar energy. Those are areas that you could actually then come in and venture in.
Thank you so much useful information. Really, really appreciate that. I was one of the people that heard what the president said when he came here once, and he was very specific in saying, listen, if you've been here in the diaspora for more than 10 years and you've got nothing to bring back to Zambia, then what have you been doing? So we need to question ourselves. There's so much opportunity, right? But it's what we do with the things that are afforded to us and how we're seeing it. We cannot afford, again, to see it as an individual. We cannot afford to see it as in we continue to be an employee. Like, what are we doing to make sure that we learn about all these things and take advantage of the opportunities that exist? So thank you so much for being clear about that. Yes, challenges might exist, but they're well thought through in terms of how they can mitigate that risk. So spend the time getting to know what's available and really taking a deeper dive, because with the taxes, it's a game changer, but we need to do something, right? So can you provide us with some current trends in the banking and investment industry? And how do they impact potential opportunities for investors? So what are the current trends?
Digitization is a major one. So it's literally about digital and innovation. And the other thing that's also key in the market is we've realized that we need to take care of our people. We're in a service industry. And if the people are not happy, then you have a big problem. I need to make sure that all my clients are happy, all the customers are happy. And if you decide to open accounts, you will have a dedicated relationship manager that will actually be able to still assist you whilst here if you have any challenges. From the digitization perspective, before I move away from people, I think I just need to say that Absa really cares about their people, and every employee in the bank, starting from a bank teller, the lowest grade, which is what we call BA1, effective 1st September 2023, is a shareholder in the bank.
That's cool.
Yes, so we have made each and every employee a shareholder.
Empowerment.
Yes, we're empowering, yes. Yeah, but then when you look at the digital perspective, MNOs, people have looked at them as threats, but from where we're sitting, an MNO is no longer a threat. We are working on partnership. So it's now around getting the synergies to make sure that there's financial inclusion through partnering with the likes of MTN, Airtel, and all the other service providers that we have. So I think that I would say that is one of the key trends that is there. Then it's also been able to help us bring these services closer to you, because now at the tap of a phone, you can actually be able to get onto Spark, which is like our mobile app, and be able to do your banking on the go. So I think that would be one of the key trends I would highlight.
Okay,
So I'd just like to add another key trend is the women in banking. So we've realized that in the past, women have had problems or issues, challenges in accessing financing. So we have a unit that specifically looks at women in banking. SMEs that are driving the economy but are women, and they're getting discounts on insurance, on asset financing. And not only that, we are educating them the way we're doing with the youth, but we're also educating them to make their businesses investor ready, the governance, the financial management. How do you balance your books? So it's a big trend. I think that's across the banking industry, but it's a key one for Absa as well.
Right, and that's actually, it's a global disparity when it comes to women and financial literacy, because a lot of times we actually have our men be responsible for the financial piece of it. And I remember speaking to both and saying, hey, what's your objective? And the man would clearly know what their objective was, and the woman would sit back and not really know. But once I give them that space and the access to be able to give information, then they have something totally different. That's their objective, right? And so it's making sure that their voices are heard, and I'm so glad that Absa is making a choice to actually hear the women in Zambia as well. So thank you so much for doing that, because that is very intentional and deliberate. And we need to make sure we understand that there are disparities and make sure that we understand that this is much needed and drive people that need that information. So thank you.
Yeah, sorry, and Mary, just to share that Silver Catering, that Silver Foods that was highlighted is one of our success stories. So that is a women in banking product.
Wow. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so have we run out of time, Seneca? Okay, no, we haven't. So very quickly, because we have very limited time, and we might have enough time for 2 questions. But before we actually go to the questions, could you please give us words of wisdom, closing words of wisdom that you would like others to take away? Something that you really is on your heart and you want to share with everybody.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah, so I just want to leave this country, leave you with one thought as I go back home. We see the diaspora as the 11th province of Zambia. So we'll do everything